guys and gals, thank you for tuning in to another one of my Wacky Doodle videos. And as I usually say, if you found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, please to hit that like button and follow and subscribe and all that other good stuff. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So today what we're going to talk about is this cool trick that Marc Silvestri had learned sometime in the early 90s, and he applied it to his comic book trade during the formation of Image Comics. So I'm going to kind of show you where he left off on one of his last things that he did for Marvel Comics back around 91, 92, I'm not for sure, when he was drawing Wolverine. And and I'm going to tell you the artist who inspired him with this cool trick, and I'm going to show you how it changed his layouts and compositions, in my opinion, for the better. It made him more cinematic. Now, having said that, Marc Silvestri's layouts are phenomenal. They're well done. He's often cited as the artist, meaning, he's somebody that a lot of artists look up to. So what I decided to do is I took an issue of Wolverine, number 35, and we're going to flip through it, and I'm going to show you the way that Marc Silvestri used to draw 90% of the time. So with that said, oh, and by the way, here's a picture of Marc Silvestri, in case you didn't know who he was. All right, and a teaser. The guy that he got advice from for his layouts is none other than Rob Liefeld. So let's get to it. So here we go, and we've got a opening shot of a splash page, which is pretty of a classic thing to do. If you know anything about writer Chuck Dixon, he always likes to start out with a splash page, no matter what artist he's working with, because it's kind of like it's kind of like the hook of the comic to reel you in. So I'm going to say that this doesn't count, but well, let's continue on. So here we're getting more to the classic Marc Silvestri I'm talking about. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 panels, and everything's kind of really tight, but it looks really good. Here we've got kind of more of the same. And yeah, looking good. Let's make sure I haven't missed one here. No. Okay. And again, we've got more of the same going on. And again, awesome layouts. I am a fan of old school Marc Silvestri and more of the new school, if you can call something he learned 20 odd years ago that. And I feel it's important that you really soak in and look at these layouts and pencils from Marc Silvestri back in the day, back in the early 90s. Now, here we go, and let's take a little bit of a short comic book history lesson. So, sometime around, I think it was 92 or 93, I'm not for sure. Basically, what happened was a lot of Marvel comic artists were kind of unhappy with what was going on. Well, there's like a few. The rest of them just saw an opportunity, and they just kind of hopped on this idea of forming their own comic book company called Image, where they all individually owned their own characters, but they kind of went under the Image banner, if that makes sense. We had people like Jim Lee, Marc Silvestri, Rob Liefeld, Jim Valentino, Wallace Portacio. Who am I leaving out? Eric Larson. Oh, I'm sure. Did I say Jim Lee? Todd McFarlane? I don't know. But the point is, there were 7 of them. 7 Image founders, and Marc Silvestri became one of them. Originally under Jim Lee's Homage Studios, which he would break out from that to form Top Cow. And there's some bad blood between Jim Lee and Marc Silvestri over that. But that's not the point. The point is, when Marc went to go start working on Cyberforce, there was somebody that he started to study to kind of pizzazz his layouts, because you have to remember the guy that drew this. All right, the guy that drew this is now drawing this. Okay, and he's competing with Jim Lee's Wildcats, with Rob Liefeld's Young Blood, with Erik Larsen's Savage Dragon, and yada yada yada, all these artists that are very in your face. And he's kind of a more old school artist in the vein of like John Romita Jr., maybe kind of George Perezzi too, if you kind of think about it, but not quite, but you kind of get the idea. And so, you know, he started studying Rob Liefeld. Now, granted, his line work is nothing like Rob Liefeld, but his layouts, his compositions. And I'm going to show you right now how that impacted his work, starting with and using Cyberforce as an example. All right, so here we've got this first page, and right away things look quite a different than his run on Wolverine. Now, to be fair to you historians out there, his last several issues of Wolverine was using more of the layouts that we know of now, but for the longest time on both the X-Men and on Wolverine, everything was a lot more tighter. But here we're getting you know, close-ups like here, and then we're getting another big thing here. So I'm going to tell you what the secret is that he applied when he was studying Rob Liefeld, and it is, in my opinion, to pick to at least have on almost every page you do. It doesn't have to be every single page, but more often than not, you need to have at least one big image to kind of anchor the page. One big image to kind of steal the show. All right, and let's see if he does this more on Cyberforce. Right here, huge image. Yeah, it's an attention getter. It's aesthetically pleasing. It's just really interesting. Again, here we see it again. We got one large image kind of anchoring the page. You can kind of say this close up could go with it too, but this right here, I feel is another example of that. Let's look at this page. We get some close-ups of the head. I guess the one shot that you could say is, you know, would be the biggest thing. Might be that kind of a stretch. But let's see if we can find a better example. All right, here we go. Again, this large panel right here, right in the center of the page, and it looks cool. You know, it really brought out the best in Silvestri's art. You know, and I think it really shows. Let's see here. Right here again. So this was something that he picked up from looking at Rob Liefeld's work on X-Force, and I suppose also on Young Blood. And he started implementing this in his own work because he saw the value of it. And then we got another big page, big panel shot here. And then I'm going to say right here. All right, so let's do a quick recap and just a reminder of this cool technique that you can implement in your storytelling as a comic artist. The thing that Marc Silvestri learned from Rob Liefeld, not directly, but just from studying his work, is to take one image and have one big image per page. Not every single page. You can have a 9-panel layout, 12-panel layout if you're ambitious, whatever, and just cram them full of all these little details and stuff like that. But I noticed that almost every page in Cyberforce, or almost every other page in Cyberforce, had at least one large panel or one large image per page. And you know, we see it here, we see it there, here, there it is again, and not so quiet here, but you know. And then we get, you know, of course, the cover, which doesn't really count. So I hope you found this video helpful. I think this is something that could be a game changer for those of you out there that have very tight layouts where you do the classic 6-panel or even 9-panel, or if you're George Perez crazy, 12-panel grids. You know, and you really like those John Romita Jr. and John Romita Sr. kind of layout styles and all that other stuff. But if you want this kind of more of a cinematic, in-your-face type of art, I recommend doing what the Image guys were doing. And you know, Mark Silvestri, the artist saw the value in it, and he incorporated it in his work. You know, we saw it all the way up till he was doing The Darkness and a few other projects. I think he may have carried it over when he went back to the X-Men, and also drawing Incredible Hulk for Marvel. But don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. If you found this video interesting, helpful, insightful, please hit like, follow, subscribe, share, do all those wonderful things. Tell people about it. And you know, if any of you don't have questions, leave comments down below. If I can't answer them, more than likely somebody that's way more well informed could probably help you out. As always, please remember to be the tide that rises our ships, to be the change you want to see. I believe that if you have righteousness on your side, mighty forces will come to your aid. Carpe diem, my friends, and as always, I will see you in the next